Welcome back. This is Joe Blasco, again for MUA TV, and you're watching Spotlight on Success. And what a fantastic success story we have for you today. Ladies and gentlemen worldwide, it is now my great pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Landy Dean.
Hi.
Hey, you don't change.
No?
Yeah, what's your secret? You don't change. You look exactly today. He looks exactly today as he did, like, what, 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
Keep going.
Keep going. When did you graduate?
The first time, 91.
The first time?
Yeah,
You graduated 2 times?
The first graduating class, just for beauty.
Yeah.
And then I went back in 93 and repeated the beauty and did the entire effects course.
You were in the actual first class that I created here in Orlando, Florida. Yeah, I had come down here to Orlando because I don't know, there was a calling, and I ended up working with Universal Studios, making all the monsters for the first Halloween horror nights.
Yeah.
And I decided, you know, I think I better start a school here. You know, so we put the school together and we put a little lab right near Universal, and we created all the monsters for them, but that's a whole nother story. But you were in the very first class.
Yeah. Well, I was working at Glamour Shots.
That's right.
And that was sort of my first job because I went to art school then, got my barber's license, worked in a salon for a year, but when I discovered the makeup, that really was the sort of gel between the beauty and the art.
Now, you came from a very small town here in Orlando, Florida. Tell everybody the name of the town.
I come from Venice, Florida. Actually, it's about an hour south of Tampa on the Gulf Coast. Very tiny retirement beach town.
Yes. But you were far from about to stay there, right?
Yeah, I just...
you had the yearning to go to the big city, and boy, did you.
I did.
Yeah.
Took me a few years, but I had the training I needed before I went, so it was good.
Yeah, tell me about your pre-Joe Blasco school years. When you were growing up, were your parents supportive of your being a makeup artist?
Well, I sort of decided that after I became an adult. Makeup artist wasn't exactly a career on the list.
Yes.
When we had career days.
Right.
I think we had Merle Norman and then just your Cliniques and Estee Lauders in the mall, and it just didn't really seem like something that, you know, a path that you could choose. But I had specialized in art. I took all advanced placement in high school and did a portfolio, and I actually won a full paid scholarship to art school. Based on my work and the essay that I wrote. So I went to a technical college in Tampa for commercial art, studied that for a few years, decided to go to hair school. I always wanted to learn how to cut hair. So I learned how to do that, and then I saw the before and afters in the magazines, and I just had to learn how to do that. So I started studying makeup on my own, any book I could get, any little class, and started shooting my own before and afters. Moved to Orlando, got hired at Glamour Shots, which at that point was a dream job. It was in the mall. We did hair, makeup, wardrobe, and took photographs.
Yes.
So
I'm always curious as to people's backgrounds, and I try to analyze what put them into this direction, you know? What kind of work do your parents do?
My mom was an interior decorator.
Art.
Yeah, and so I was always around that creative sort of with colors, and just picked a lot of that up along the way, and didn't even realize until later, you know, how much it would really help and influence.
Yes.
So.
And your father?
Not really in the picture, so not
and this
much
is
of
another
an influence.
This is another thing that I see a tremendous amount of.
Yeah.
The father's, most of the time, seriously, about 70%, never in the picture.
Yeah.
Always, you know, a split going on there.
But I was lucky to have a mom that could handle both roles, and very well, might I add. So it really, it didn't necessarily seem like much was missing.
It's important to have a mother that really is supportive of what you do. My mother to this day calls me at all hours, telling me that there's something not quite right with MUATV. And she's 84 or 85 years old, and and I sent her a computer, and honest to God, she's smart as a whip. I mean, she really picked it up very quickly. So she's up all night. She says, Joey, she calls me Joey. She says, Joey, I was up until 4 o'clock in the morning. They were all shows that I've already seen, but I really enjoyed them.
Great.
It's great to have a mother that's behind you and supportive of what you do. Someone to make you proud, or to be proud of you.
Absolutely.
Among others. So you came to my school, and you had this great art background already. Did you continue to study art, or to have art as a hobby after graduating from my school, or was it then completely toward makeup?
I still did some illustration. It changed a lot because it became because I always sort of tried to direct my projects into fashion and beauty.
Yes.
If it was illustration or painting or even stippling, I'd stipple the face and no one would take that on, but I took it on.
Yes.
And so I really understood the lights and the darks on paper before I ever had to do it on the face.
Yes.
And I feel like one helped the other. Now if I do an illustration, I understand the folds of the skin, how the eyebrow, the hairs of the eyebrow, the direction, the lashes, which I didn't really have as deep of an understanding when I just was in art school. So they've complemented each other. But the makeup really has become my art, and that sort of fulfills the creative side, and I never feel like I really have to draw or paint because I have that art in my life every day, and I'm fortunate enough to pay my rent with it.
Yeah, very good, very good. And being in New York, it's pretty high
that's
rent.
quite a feat.
Sure. You are, and I honestly, truthfully can say this, you're one of the few, if not the only, I would venture to say the only makeup artist that's graduated from all of my schools, both of my schools, that has absolutely meticulously mastered the art of the classic brow. Now there are others. I mean, Ronnie Spector, and there's so many. Cheryl Patak. I mean, there are a lot of makeup artists out there that I've graduated that are just fabulous artists. Kelsey Fry actually was an apprentice. They all do classic brow, but you, out of all, seem to be the one that just wants to eradicate that eyebrow and impose that classic brow. And there's only one other makeup artist that I know that had that kind of insanity going, and that's me. So you picked that up for me, I would think.
Absolutely.
I must have really driven that into your head while you were in class, the classic brow.
Yeah, it really, because I remembered going home and doing the drawings, and I remember really studying the dimensions and the way it lined up. And even before I went to New York, the models sort of would talk amongst themselves when I was just doing makeup for shoots, and they would say, have him do your eyebrows, when he's really good at that. And so it just resonated with me, and it made sense. And being a barber, I didn't really do that in barber school like the cosmetologist would. So that it really came from the studio setting. And it makes such a difference, and it really has set me apart in New York. Because I'm not necessarily an esthetician that was trained with wax. So then when I went to New York, I had the opportunity to move there and work with Vincent Longo when he launched his line. And part of what he did at the counter up at the salon on 57th was eyebrows. So I just started doing it and applied those dimensions, and you're doing 8 to 15 a day, and you really perfect it, and you have to make it out of pencil thin or triple the size that you need. So I've learned to approach it from every angle with what's given to me and make it work.
Well, it was a long time in coming, the development of the calculations that I have somewhat created for the classic brow. Now, the Westmores had a formula for classic brow also, which I agreed with to a point. And what I didn't like was and I still disagree with it today, and that is that the old-fashioned way of doing it is where they'll take and they'll line a pencil up like this. And they'll say, well, you put it on the outside corner of your nostril, and you let it touch the outside part of your eye here, and then wherever it ends up here, that's where your eyebrow ends. Wherever it goes up here, that's where your eyebrow. Well, I don't agree with that. What I do is I don't feel that really takes full advantage of the eye
Right.
as the center point of focus.
Exactly.
In designing the placement of the eyebrow.
Yeah.
And so what I do is, and you'll be, I'm not going to give this all away.
No.
You're going to be learning all of this. And actually, if you bought the Professional Makeup Artist, the book, Volume 1 that I wrote with Vincent J.R. Kehoe, the classic eyebrow is explained quite extensively in that book. But it's all based upon the shape of the eye, the horizontal, the width of the eye open, and the vertical height of the eye open. And so, and we're going to see you doing, you're going to do demos for us, right?
Oh, yeah.
Not here on MUA TV. The demos are going to be, well, we might have a little preview for you here on MUA TV. As a matter of fact, we will. But your demos are actually being done very, very seriously, not light and airy as we normally do for MUA TV. They're going to be very serious and in an instructional format as seminars for themakeupspace.com. Now, by now you should know all about themakeupspace.com. If you look right here on the right of the screen, one of these sidebars down here somewhere, you'll see the icon that says themakeupspace.com. If you click on that, it takes you to an area of our site where there are actual seminars that are very inexpensive that are being presented by A-list makeup artists, for instance, like Mr. Dean. And you'll be able to see Landy's, I think there's 6 or 7 seminars that he's done that are absolutely phenomenal. All about beauty makeup. This man is the beauty makeup artist of our day in New York. Let me back up a little bit here. Now, you got to New York, and you went to New York working for Vincent Longo.
Correct.
So you were very lucky then. Did
Yes.
you have that job before you went to New York, or did you get the job after you arrived?
No, he actually called me and asked me to move there to work for him. I met him through mutual
And I was very
friends.
angry, as I recall. Because he was working for me as a makeup artist. Or you were doing a lot of running around for me at that time too, weren't you? Or no?
It had phased out a little bit because I
Yeah.
was really working with Raphael here in Orlando and
Yes.
and doing a lot of model shoots and jobs.
Yes.
And
Raphael
Tungle,
Okay.
the photographer
Yes,
that
yes,
shot a
yes.
lot of the images that you still use.
Yes, yes.
And
Is Raphael still in town?
he's still here.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I've got to give him a call.
Yeah, I just saw him yesterday. He was
You
helping me get some models together for the seminar.
Oh,
So
terrific.
still an amazing photographer. He's like my brother now.
Yeah, excellent, excellent.
So
Landy did the, well, we actually kind of collaborated on the makeup for the cover of the book. I was there looking over his shoulder and grabbing the brush and pointing it around and doing it. Do it this way, bring this up a little bit and do this and do that.
and the magnifying glass.
And I had my magnifying glass
Which I
there.
love.
And I go in and make a little touch here, a little touch there. But he actually is like 90% of the makeup is Landy's baby. And when you get copies of the Joe Blasco Makeup Center West School, as well as the East School catalog, there are photos of Landy's makeup work and beauty makeup. Now, you went to New York, and how long did you work with Vincent Longo?
Well, I worked for a year, and then he decided to make it very easy for me to go to Milan. We had a brief conversation on a Tuesday, and I was on a plane on a Sunday, and basically
Sounds
moved.
like a falling out to me.
No, it was good. It was time for me to start working on my editorial career.
Anytime anybody messes with me in business, they find themselves on an airplane heading for Milan.
No, it was
They're
very,
lucky.
it was very in his nature. I mean, I moved to New York in a few weeks, and it was just time for
So
me to start the career.
were you representing his line in Milan, or did you just say goodbye?
He basically just made a few phone calls, and I had to go and interview with Aldo Coppola's agency, and I stayed with a friend of his, and then I just, they accepted me, they took me on, they wanted to rep me, and so I came back, put my stuff in storage, and moved to Milan indefinitely, ended up being there about 2.5 years, and that sort of launched my editorial career.
Yeah.
And started building my portfolio.
That is so terrific. Then you began working for me again.
Yes.
In Europe.
After I was there, yes, I traveled for both of you, which was great. I'm fortunate enough to have 2 great Italian mentors.
Yes.
And
Vincent, speaking of Vincent
yeah.
Longo.
He's Italian-Australian.
Yes, yes.
And
Australian-Italian.
Yeah.
Really?
He's from Australia,
Oh,
but
I
he's
didn't know that.
of Italian descent.
Terrific. Is he
So-
Sicilian?
Calabrese.
Calabrese. Okay.
Yeah.
Like my Uncle Louis. Okay. We won't go there.
Right.
All right, so he was from Chicago. So, no, actually Pittsburgh. So, okay, are you Italian? You're not Italian.
No, not sure what I am.
Yeah. Dean, you're not related to Richard Dean, right?
No.
Do you know Richard?
No.
You don't?
Richard
Oh
Dean.
my God, he's also fantastic. Well, but he's in a different arena.
Yeah.
He's in New York. He's been in New York forever. And he's a fabulous makeup artist, one of the best. And honestly, I can say that Richard, as far as film and television is concerned, I respect tremendously for his
Wow.
beauty makeup work.
That's great.
Tremendously. Sometimes I'll see a film, and I'll be looking at the makeup, and I know that it's from New York, and I can just tell when Richard has done them,
Right.
the beauty makeup. And I'll
That's
look for his name. I'll look for your name, Richard, and I always find it. And I've never met Richard. I've spoken to him on the telephone. He uses my products, or at least he used to use my products years ago. And as most makeup artists do, there's always one or two Joe Blasco items in the case that they use. And so maybe one day we'll be able to get Richard Dean down here also to be a guest on our show. But let's get back to Landy Dean. Now, you found yourself in Milan.
Right.
And you were working in a salon in Milan, or?
No, I was only freelancing.
You were freelancing. So you went to Milan. You decided to go there. You had no job. So you just,
No agent.
no agent. And how did you speak Italian?
Not a word. I'd never been out of the country.
No way.
That's why that Tuesday to Sunday is pretty impactful for me, because it literally went from a random conversation at dinner to, here's your ticket.
Get out of the country.
Yeah. And I went.
That's great.
I went with a little book of Italian for like kids, and put stickers on everything, and learned how to speak. Learned how to speak it.
Say something in Italian, please. Can you speak it now?
Buongiorno tutti.
Buongiorno tutti. Grazie. That's really amazing. It really is. You know, I grew up in an Italian household, and I spoke Italian before I spoke English.
Oh, really?
And, yeah, but it's been a long time. And actually, I had a little bit of an Italian accent when I went to first grade, you know, so it's very strange. Anyway, so when I go to Italy, I try to remember my Italian, and I learned from my grandmother and grandfather, who I used to speak fluently to them, and they're Sicilian, real dyed-in-the-wool Sicilian, and they came to this country like in the 20s, I think.
Wow.
And so the Italian that they spoke was from the late 1800s. So I found myself one time in Sicily with my cousin, who is a professor at one of the colleges in Sicily, and while I was speaking Sicilian, his eyes, he was like staring at me, and I was like wondering, why is this man staring at me like that? And then I asked him, I said, why are you looking at me this way? And he says, you're speaking antique Sicilian. He said, the only thing I can compare it to, he said, was Shakespeare. He says, comparing the English language as it is today to Shakespeare, you are speaking Shakespearean Italian.
That's awesome.
And I want to learn it. Yeah, I want to get it back because of that, you know. So I spoke to my mother the other day, and I said, you know, Mom, we should really start talking more Italian. So I'm going up to visit her this summer, and so I'm gonna. One of the rules is that we can only speak Italian.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's going to be terrific. All right, so how long were you in Italy?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. That's a long time.
Yeah.
And so what was your first job there?
My first job was doing makeup on the Romeo Gigli show.
Romeo Gigli.
Yeah, a designer.
Gigli.
Yeah. It's the spelled the Gigli, so that GL.
Was he a makeup
there,
artist?
Ye. No, but there might have been another.
Did you
one
know
with
a
his last name.
Mr. Gilles? Or
No.
Gilles? No? Well, that's where the classic eyebrow came. Well, actually, it came from a little bit of him and I. Gilles was one of Sophia Loren's makeup artists in Italy. And I was working for the Max Factor. No, I wasn't yet working for the Max Factor company. He was working for the Max Factor company. And he was at Kaufman's department store in downtown Pittsburgh. And he was representing Max Factor, doing makeups and selling makeup. He couldn't speak English. He could only speak Italian. And I spoke Italian. Sicilian. Antique. Shakespearean Sicilian. So I go up to him and I talk to him. And I'm watching him work. And what fascinated me was his eyebrow technique. At that time, they had what they called a Max Factor fine line pencil, which I later duplicated, and I called mine the classic brow pencil. And we don't make them anymore, but we should. Maybe we will. And it's a metal pencil, and you screw it up, and the lead comes up. Yeah, I still have a few of them left. And so I watched him, and he would literally tweeze like crazy, and then just hair after hair after hair with this fine line pencil. He taught me how to use the pencil on its side. He taught me the classic brow shape, and it all came from Sophia Loren. And I didn't realize that until I began seeing movies that Sophia did, which I hadn't seen at that time. You know, a little boy growing up small town in Pittsburgh, the only thing I watched were the old American International horror films, you know, with me and my friend Frank Volkerak, Saturday mornings, you know, all day long until 11 o'clock at night, American International, Vincent Price, Boris Karloff, Peter Lorre, but no Sophia Loren, because they would play the good movies over at another theater. Anyway, I'm off on a tangent. So I learned how to do eyebrows because this was the man that did Sophia Loren's eyebrows. And if you recall looking at Sophia Loren's eyebrows in any of these films, you know, they were practically like, it looked as though he had tweezed everything out and he penciled everything in. And so that was the guy that started it all for me, yeah. Yeah, and then I took it and kind of tweaked the technique and observed other makeup artists and tweaked the technique, learned from Ben Nye a little how to do this and that, George Bow at Warner Brothers, and watched these guys work, you know, and I put it all together. Anyway, that's where you learn. That's where what you know and what you have perfected so well, that's where it comes from. That's the history.
That's good to know.
Yeah,
I did not know
that's
that.
the history of it. Yeah. There's always history behind all of this stuff, you know, and that's what MUA TV is all about, trying to teach people the history and to have them understand the richness of the art and where it all has come from. And so now back to you. Now we're in Italy, and you're there for a while. You're doing fashion magazine covers.
Started doing editorial shoots. Did a lot of couture shows in Rome. We would do anywhere from 12 to 15 mainstream fashion shows per season in Milan from, you know, Armani.
Now, I hear couture all the time. Sometimes I hear couture in reference to hairstyling. I hear couture in reference to makeup. I hear couture in reference to clothing. What is the definition of the word couture?
Well, I would love to tell you the literal definition. My take on it is it basically means unique. It's something that's more one of a kind. So you have a designer that designs where they'll make multiple pieces of a dress and they'll sell them worldwide. Couture is a bit more sort of a one of a kind gown that they might make specifically for somebody for an event. And it's just a bit more specialized, a bit more artistic, and it's not as mainstream.
Or just for the show.
Or just for the show. The hair and makeup is wilder, and it's a different feel. And people do use it you know, in a wide range of meanings, but typically it just means something that's a bit more niche and a bit more unique.
Yes, interesting. And in your, from your point of view, what has influenced you the most from what you learned? And we all learn as we continue. I'd like to think that everybody just, you know, learned from what I taught them, but you learned much after you left the school. What did you learn in Europe that affected your makeup application style?
I went there very technical. I mean, from training with you to just the sort of the trends that were going on sort of in the mid-90s. It was very highlight and shadow and lip liner and filling in the brows, and everything was very technical. And you know, I've always prided myself on my ability to take black and fade it all the way to white. And I got the opportunity to do that, you know, on shoots, sometimes with, you know, club kids or drag queens, you know, where that really fit in. And basically what the Europeans told me is put the brush down, use your fingers. Makeup became a bit looser, that whole crazy heroin chic period came in. Models looking younger, and technical isn't always younger because it's more sophisticated. So if you see an 18-year-old model with this beautifully done makeup, it doesn't send the message sometimes that the designer wants.
I think they were afraid of you, and they didn't want you to show the world what you could do. They put the brushes down, use your fingers.
Right, which I learned how to do. Going the opposite direction is a little more difficult.
You can scare people when you start doing makeup if you really are, really good. Because there aren't there are a lot of good makeup artists out there, but there are very few that have that absolutely unbelievable edge to what they do.
Right.
And if your edge is because of the way you work with brushes, I can understand why they would say, put those brushes down.
I got in trouble.
You're making us look bad, kid.
I did. I got in trouble, but you know, sometimes the models would like mine better.
Call a spade a spade here. That's really what was going on.
But it really gave a certain grit and tooth to my work that it needed,
it would,
and it gave a great versatility.
Right.
But I would still do a beautiful technical makeup,
Absolutely.
and then I would mess it up. So I still had to have my way, because for me, I've always prided myself on that technical skill, and that's one of my biggest selling points, is my ability for balance and color. So I had to do it that way and then mess it up to sort of fit the trends.
Yes.
And now I can sort of approach it in different ways depending on what I'm doing. So I needed that. I was sort of not a one-trick pony, but to be in the world of fashion, I really needed to have that experience there. And
you have to be
spit on my finger
flexible.
and, not that I literally did that, of course, but, it was a lot with fingers. I started doing base with my fingers and blush and lips.
That's how Ben Nye, Senior, taught me to use my fingers. And Vincent Keogh. It's funny how these makeup artists, there's so many different techniques, so many different schools of thought, and I'm so happy to have learned from about 40 of them. So, you can imagine what was going on in my head when I was growing up. And it was trying to, piece it all together and have everything make sense and put it into its right list of, top to bottom. But it was Ben Nye, Senior, who, he said, kid, he says, use your fingers here. Let me show you how to pat.
Right.
And then it was Vincent Keogh who said, never use your fingers. Don't ever use your fingers. It's unprofessional to use your fingers. You have to use brushes and sponges. So I kind of we're not curing cancer, So you can do whatever you want, whatever gets the job done. And we're not brain surgeons, for God's sake, where one little slip in the wrong direction is going to kill somebody or maim them for life. We can, it always washes off at night, It's only makeup, I like to say, so don't get crazy about it. Do a great job, do the best you can, and call it a day.
Enjoy it.
Enjoy it.
Have fun doing it.
Right, exactly. Now, you were in Milan for quite a while. Worked for my company, traveling around, did fashion shows, did couture shows, runway and all. And what company in Italy did you work with more than any other that you really, really, really enjoyed?
Like in my kit, or?
No, I'm talking about products. I'm talking like Versace or Prada.
Oh, I see. In fashion, it really, unlike being booked on a film with a director for 6 months or something, it really changes daily. And so...
why is that?
Because typically a shoot is a day or two, and then you move on to the next job, where production for film or TV, it lasts several days or weeks of shooting, so you're with the same people.
Right.
I'm motivated by stability and variety, which is pretty much the polar opposites.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And so for me, now that I'm more established, the stability is much more nurtured, but I still have the variety.
Yes.
And that's what really always resonated with me with fashion, is that it does change every day, and it can be a pharmaceutical shoot where you're literally just doing straight documentary style makeup and just making people look
like
good
themselves
to be photographed, to the next day of a complete crazy black smoky eyes for a shoot. So it really is, and then I'll go in the salon that evening and do an eyebrow on, a 50-year-old attorney or, trader from Wall Street. It really is the variety. And so I worked with Armani a lot. He booked me to do a wedding in Rome once where Tina Turner was there. I mean, there was all these amazing things happening. And mind you, I'd only been in New York a year, so I was pretty much still out of the sticks of Florida. And all of that happened really quickly. But the variety is what made it really great.
Right. That's excellent.
And so it was equally great to work with all of them.
So what brought you back to New York?
I was just ready to come back and start my career in the States.
You didn't think your career had started by what you were doing in Europe?
Well, a lot of it is transfers, the tear sheets and some of the contacts, but New York is it can be a whole different animal, and depending on how you come into it. And I just, family, friends, I had just sort of had enough of that lifestyle. It was very by the seat of your pants, you know. I didn't have a cell phone most of the time I was there. I didn't have a checkbook. I didn't have bank accounts. You know, my money was in my drawer, and I just paid. You know, it was just there was no bills. It was very free. And after a while, you know, I turned 30, and it was time to come back and just start the New York segment of my career.
Yes, yes.
And
are you alone, or do you have a wife or a partner? Or
no, I'm on my own.
You're on your own.
I'm on my own.
Do you find that it would be easier to be with someone?
I feel like that's all dependent on the person. Some relationships really can grow and sort of flourish in situations where you support each other in your career, and sometimes one doesn't work for the other if one travels.
Yes.
I like traveling, although I feel it feels better when I'm in one place. Like, I love just going to studios in New York and then going to the salon. And then maybe taking a 2-week trip to St. Bart's once a year for a really great string of fashion stories, as opposed to being on a plane all the time. It's a little jarring to my energy.
It's difficult to have a relationship when you're traveling that much.
Yeah.
You know, and you're really married to your career. That's what I've found myself. I'm totally married to what I do. And when I get tired, I never get bored, but when I get tired of one area of makeup artistry that I'm working in, and I invent another.
Right.
Like MUA-TV, or the makeupspace.com, or the Mega Makeup Store. And I'm not done yet. So, you're back in New York. Yes. How does one find an agent in New York?
Well, it's sort of like a relationship. I feel like it really is dependent on how well you get along as people, and that you are sort of on the same page with
but where do you find
where your direction is.
How do you locate an agent?
I found most of them just researching. There are guides. There's Le Book and different things, you know, different sort of industry guides.
And there are agencies that are very well known.
Yes. Yeah, there are like the top 5, the top 10,
Can you
the
name
top
a few
15.
of them?
Well, in New York, Brian Bantry is a huge agency. They sort of deal with, I sort of call it the royalty of fashion makeup. I mean, at one point, Brian Bantry, they've repped Vincent Longo, Fulvia Ferralfi, Moira Mulholland.
Where are they located in New York?
They are on Broadway.
On Broadway.
And I've worked with them a lot over the years, sort of on the side because of Vincent. They've never repped me, though, or they haven't repped me.
Are they in Midtown, or are they down?
No, they're downtown, and they just moved on Broadway, And but there are several agents, and it really, some are a bit more like hardcore fashion, like that's all they do.
Yes.
I'm actually with Stocklin Martel, and they
rep the name?
Stocklin Martel, and my agent is Simon, and I've been with them almost 4 years. And they rep a wide range. They have Matthew Ralston, Kwaku, Roxanne Lowitt. They have a wide range of photographers, and so it gives us an opportunity to really work in some sort of commercial advertising as well as fashion. So you have to decide what path you want to take, and the agent needs to be representative of that as well. Like, if you want to make money and just do advertising and do catalog and sort of be more settled, then you're not going to go with like a Jed Root or somebody who does, they represent the top like fashion people.
Yes.
So you have to make sure that it's the right fit.
Very interesting. This whole thing with agents and agencies it's kind of new, really, like 20 years, 25 at the most. I mean, there have always been agents, but never for makeup artists, and hairstylists. We were kind of on our own, for all those years, throughout the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. It was very unusual for a makeup artist to have to rely on someone else to get them jobs.
Right.
And for the longest time, I could understand it, and I would think, well, you know, if the person is, you know, so good at what they do, why do they need somebody else pushing them? And then it was like I realized that these people were so connected politically within the industry that it was not because the makeup artists themselves weren't able to communicate, but it's just that these people were connected and would be able to introduce them, you know, to the right people, which is very, very helpful because I had nothing like that when I started in the industry. It was like, you know, you just went after it yourself, you know.
Well, I worked that way in Orlando,
Yeah.
right? And I worked all the time.
Yeah.
It's just typically the higher end, not on the higher end clients. Clients in general deal with the agents.
Yeah, good. I'm not familiar with the agencies in New York. I'm more familiar with the agents in Los Angeles, like Helen Cohen, for instance. Helen Cohen is very, very prominent. She reps people like Rick Baker and Greg Canham, you know, the special makeup.
And I didn't realize that those type of artists had agents.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah. You'd think that that their work would stand alone and they wouldn't need to. But it's these agents are kind of like attorneys, where they actually review the contracts and they
absolutely.
You know, they make sure
negotiate.
that their you know, their clients are really going to get the best from the production company, and I think it's very important because it's all become very, very technical and very complicated. And we should just be artists, right? You know,
Yes, we should just
take
be
care of all
artists.
that red tape. Now, and okay, so you went back to New York, and you've been there for quite some time now. How many years have you been in New York?
I've been back 10 years.
10 years.
10 years
So you're
this
very
summer.
established now.
Yes,
Yeah.
I am.
And-
I feel very, very good where I'm at.
Yeah, and the name of the salon?
The name of the salon is Idris, E-D-R-I-S.
E-D-R-I-S. E-D-R-I-S. Idris.
Yes.
And where they're located in what is known as the
We're in the
meatpacking
meatpacking district, right, on 14th Street. Idris is actually an amazing hairdresser that I met the first year that I moved to New York. She worked in that same salon,
Yes.
and she's got a 20-year history in New York
Yes.
with, you know, as apprenticing some of the best hairdressers, and she's
Wonderful.
really created her own little sort of avenue in the business.
Yes.
And she decided to open a salon about 6 years ago.
Wonderful.
And we sort of had little meetings all along the way, and I just knew I wanted to be part of that downtown
Absolutely.
sort of the pioneering that was happening, and she was one of the first ones to open in that area. So I moved my brow business there, and over the course of a few years, you know, we've been open 6 years, and a few years into it, it just exploded and really became something I never thought eyebrows would become for me. It was a side thing to make money while I got my freelance jobs, and
Right.
now it's become more than half of my empire, if you will.
Yes.
And it's great.
Let's talk about your brow business. And by the way, I do want to interview Idris when I come to New York. I got to get that West Coast out of my head. Los Angeles. And that's another thing. You know, we've been pulling a lot of the makeup people from Los Angeles into my little domain, and we have honestly been neglecting, and I hate to say this, the wonderful, talented artists that are in Chicago and in New York. And so during the remaining portion of this year, we're going to be concentrating on many artists from New York, both makeup and hairstyling, so you're going to want to watch out for all that. Your eyebrow business, the Wow Brow, right? The Wow Brow has really taken off, and you've become known as New York's premier eyebrow man. Tell me about that.
Well, like I said, it started just when I was working with Vincent and doing the brows, and I slowly got this sort of underground following of, you know, of an eyebrow expert. And because I tweeze and many people wax, it does sort of, it's a different look, it's a different feeling, it's a different experience.
It's a more perfect look.
Some clients
I
can't
think.
wax, and less at the same time.
Yes.
Because I'm able to sort
You
of,
can, manipulate.
even on a male client, I'm able to recreate the brow in a different position and
Yes.
still create those soft edges.
Right, right.
Where, you know, waxing and threading and some of those, which, you know, they're amazing, and I've
Isn't
seen
threading
amazing
something?
things.
Have you ever seen threading done? We're going to have a demo here on MUA TV, and we're actually going to have a seminar on threading on the makeupspace.com. That you are going to be our eyebrow master outside of yours.
I'm the tweezer.
You're the tweezer.
One who tweezes.
Oh, don't you hate it when they say pluck? Yeah. Pluck. And who was it that told me? It was Ben Nye, Senior. He said, don't say pluck. He says, pluck is... Oh, no, it wasn't Ben Nye. I think it was Richard Corson. It was Richard Corson. Anyway, it was one of my great mentors. And I was told, don't ever say pluck. You pluck chickens.
Right.
And you tweeze eyebrows. And you've really brought it to an entire another level of sophistication.
Yeah, it really has. And I would say, in a way, it is sort of a couture version of eyebrows because it is very much suited to each person, even though I don't necessarily think of all the dimensions anymore. I just eye it and I can look and tell you someone exactly what needs to go and what needs to stay to sort of shift it.
Okay, now, if someone in New York or someone visiting New York would like to take an eyebrow lesson from you, not to have their eyebrow done, but let's say a makeup artist wants to come in to learn how to do brows. Do you teach?
I have taught seminars in New York for the powder group for eyebrows, and I've, it's been very specific to artists that want that as part of their repertoire. And
aren't they a great group?
Yeah.
Michael DeValis and all the guys
he's done
over
some
there.
Great, his magazine on makeup.
I love
really
that
great.
magazine. It's so unique. Speaking of couture, that magazine has a really sophisticated uniqueness that's still, it's cutting edge, but at the same time it's trendy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It really jumps out at you.
Yeah, it's really great.
Yeah, I love it. And I had the great pleasure of being at the last Los Angeles, the makeup show, and Makeup Show LA. And I spoke for a little while and was very successful. And as a matter of fact, we have that speech that I did on tape, and we're going to run it for you on MUA TV sometime quite soon. Well, we've been really busy. We've been so busy. Like you're here to videotape your seminars for the makeupspace.com. And we've been so busy doing all of the videotaping for the makeupspace.com to get this up and running because it's quite unique. Although we hear there are others that are already trying to copy what we're doing, I love it. It's so flattering, especially when a major television network tries to get in on the act. Can't wait to see that. Anyway, so we are here doing these seminars, and we're going to have so many more seminars done. But what I'm saying is that we've kind of been so busy trying to put this makeup space together that we've stopped production of MUA TV for a while, and we've been running the best of, We have about 8 months of MUA TV. And we're finding out, because we have this new system in place, where before, very few people that had like older computers could bring in MUA TV. They could hear it. It was like a radio show. What good is that, if you're trying to show makeup? But now, with the new system that we have in place, anyone can get MUA TV. Now, if you have a lower res, kind of or older computer, or a computer that doesn't bring in as many kilobytes per second, the image is not going to be that great. It'll tile a little, but at least you'll be able to see it. But if you have a computer that is able to bring in like 1,000 or 1,200 or 1,500 kilobytes per second, then you're going to see absolutely flawless HD images, and that's what you should strive to get. So that's what's been going on with all of that, and we've been working so hard to do that. And I want to thank you very much for coming down here to Orlando to do this.
Absolutely.
This is really exciting to be able to see you again, and to be able to take pride in knowing that I had some small part of helping you to develop into the great artists that you have become.
Absolutely. It's an honor to be invited back to teach and give back a little. It's just time for me to do that.
Yeah, it is fun
nice to do.
To
it's
teach
nice
and
to
give back.
experience this with you.
Yeah.
And because a lot of times in the world we get caught up in the commercial part of it.
Yes.
The commerce.
Yes.
It's a job. It's it's fee for service.
Yes.
And this, I feel like, will give me an opportunity to really just get back to the art of it and not be rushed and not be going on live TV or having a budget or a deadline or all
Right.
these things. So it's really, and I need that. I'm at the
See,
point
that's all
that
Hollywood stuff. The makeup artists in Hollywood thrive on all that.
On what?
On all the budgeting and the schedules
Yeah.
and this and the deadlines and all this. But it's good across the board. I mean, that's how the movie business is, movie and television. You know,
Same in
you're lucky to
fashion.
be in fashion. Fashion is a whole different animal.
Yeah, the
It's
same.
wonderful.
It can be the same. It is. I mean, it's amazing. It's just it over the years it does change a little when it really becomes a business.
Yes.
And so I just grab at every opportunity, whether it's a test shoot for my book where nobody's getting paid, we're just creating art.
Yes, yes.
Those opportunities are golden to me.
Yes.
Because they're Landy time and they're
Yes.
Landy makeup artist time. They're not Landy makeup artist
Yes.
for hire time.
Well, this is going to be Landy time.
Yeah.
These seminars, and there are approximately how many? 6 or 7?
6 or 7 we're going to do.
Yeah, there's 7. And some of the looks are going to be.
I want to do a red carpet glamour look. Of course, I want to do the eyebrow,
Yes.
which will show
The classic brow.
different ways of approaching it and how to really, whether you're just filling it in cosmetically or you're actually tweezing it to a good understanding of it.
Yes.
I'll be working with a mature model
Yes.
and really talking about the colors and textures for that.
So you'll be doing a mature makeup
yeah.
for a woman.
Yeah, and
as
I
well.
definitely want to do a fashion look, something really strong. We're going to break some of the rules that you learn technically,
Right.
but you need to know the rules before you break them.
That's
So
right. That's important.
come and see that. Definitely get that one, and you can get a better understanding of how fashion works and how print works sometimes as opposed to, maybe film or TV.
Yes, yes.
So those will be some of the looks.
Yes, excellent. I'm really looking forward to that, and I know that our audience out there is going to just love it. And so, Landy, thank you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much
My
for coming
pleasure.
in. It's just been too long.
Yeah,
you know?
it has.
And I know we're going to have a lot of fun doing these. So
I think so.
you sit tight because right now we're going to take a little break. We're going to get back to
Okay, great.
our regular programming. So don't you go away because we've got a lot more makeup and hair programming right here on MUA TV. And you've just been visiting with Mr. Landy Dean, the makeup artist to the stars, socialites, and celebrities in New York City. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more right here on MUA TV.